sold to the Mohave, 1852. Fall, 1851. Olive and Mary Ann Oatman have been living with the Tocopaya for 8 or 9 months. Their daily work, if not their entirely new lifestyle, was more or less routine by now. They may have even been relatively conversational in the new language. The sun still burned through the days, but the weather had cooled from the summer months, especially at night. What little crops the Tocopaya had were still gathered and stored every day as the hunting parties continued their work in parallel. Beyond mere sustenance, and most likely unbeknownst to Olive and Mary Ann, the Tocopaya were also working hard to prepare for a trade visit from their neighbors to the west, the Mohave. The Mohave soon arrived looking to trade baskets, tools, foodstuffs, etc. Somewhere in the trade talks, Olive and Mary Ann became part of the negotiation. Among the Tocopaya was the concern that if they sold Olive and Mary Ann, and somehow the whites got word of their involvement in the massacre, then the U.S. government might retaliate. This possibility is mentioned in most of the books about Olive and the Oatman massacre. I can't tell you it wasn't a concern of theirs, but I'm personally not sold on the idea. If you were worried about retaliation, sure, don't kill white families on the border of your land. But also, don't leave survivors. And certainly don't take them prisoner back to your villages. Besides, wouldn't selling the captives and shipping them hundreds of miles away put more distance between you and the living evidence of your actions? Maybe the Tocopaya knew something about the Mohave that increased the likelihood that someone might spill the beans on Olive and Mary Ann. Whatever their actual concerns at the time, it seems negotiations broke down and Olive and Mary Ann were not included in that round of trading. Spring, 1852. In the following spring, the Mohave returned. This Mohave trading party included 5 men and 1 woman, and this time they had the approval of their chief to trade for Olive and Mary Ann. Negotiations quickly commenced, and soon the families of those who committed the massacre were again objecting. After some time, an agreement was reached. For a few horses, some food, beads, and blankets, Olive and Mary Ann Oatman were sold to the Mohave in the spring of 1852, approximately 1 year after the murder of their family. There is a story about Olive and Mary Ann being asked by the Tocopaya if they would like to be sold to the Mohave. I admit, upon reading that, my first impulse was, heck yes, but I bet Olive was more thoughtful. Maybe it was a trick question. Better not to answer at all. Also, better the devil you know, so to speak? The Mohave were regular trading partners of the Tocopaya, but who's to say if they'd be any different than their original captors? Maybe Olive and Mary Ann had found a place among the Tocopaya over the last year. Maybe, and a long shot here, if they had any plans of escape or rescue, the sale to the Mohave would put them even further away from white civilization and potential escape and or rescue. Whatever their wishes, hopes, or fears, in the spring of 1852, Olive and Marianne were being taken to another unknown place full of unknown people. Once again, they were crossing the desert on foot. Once again, exposed to the elements, hot days, cold nights, sleeping on the ground, using the restroom and other life issues out in the open, tired, hungry, and scared of what lay ahead. And, once again, poor, weak Marianne had trouble keeping up. After 10 grueling days, they finally arrived at the river valley home of the Mohave. I'd like to think that Olive and Marianne at least had a moment of relief when they came upon the Colorado River and the green vegetation of their new home. But maybe that's naive on my part. Olive and Marianne were immediately brought to the residence of Chief Espanol, where they were told of their duties, how they'd have to earn their keep by collecting roots and foraging for food and hauling water up from the river. Whether Olive and Marianne realized it or not, their life as a Mohave had just begun. In the next section, crossing paths with the Mohave. Daily life of the Mohave. But before moving on, with no choice in the matter, you're back in the wilderness, traveling on foot to another unknown land full of unknown people. If you're Olive, now 14 years old, what are you telling yourself? What are you telling Marianne, your 9-year-old kid sister? Is it cold silence and despair? Is it keep your head down and your nose clean? Do you dare hope for a better situation? If that was you, what would be going through your head during the long 10-day journey to the Mohave settlement? Talk it over with your group, and when you're ready, go ahead and play the next section. Life as a Mohave, 1852 to 1856, Part 1.